I don't think anyone can deny that Battlefield 5 has launched with its fair share of bugs. Every Battlefield launch that comes and goes tends to have some, but this one has had a lot of small ones that annoy you more than break the game. I think we all remember Battlefield 4 and the larger issues that we had back then. Today, DICE pushed live a small update addressing some more bugs that are present in the game at the moment, and they gave out a couple of statements on various blog posts and Reddit posts on other bugs that they're working to try and fix in the future. The headline change of this patch is an update to the way that spotting works with the minimap. Since the launch of the game, the minimap has been spotting you after you kill an enemy player, but the game didn't tell you that you'd been spotted. That alerted other enemies to your presence nearby, and it made them very easy for them to come over and kill you. You might have noticed that on some of the smaller maps like Fiel and Devastation, the enemies kind of swarmed you after you landed a couple of kills yourself. That's because they knew exactly where you were. This patch removes that issue, and it means for players to highlight you on the minimap anymore, they need to actively spot you, either with recon gadgets or suppressing you. Now, at the moment, DICE hasn't exactly said if this was a bug or an intentional action of the minimap that was added to the game. Since the launch of Battlefield 1 back in 2016, DICE adjusted minimap behaviour, so it didn't spot you for firing unsuppressed weapons, as it did in Battlefield 4. Now, the counter to this in Battlefield 4 was to attach a suppressor to your weapon, and then you'd stay off the minimap whilst firing unless you were actively spotted by an enemy. Battlefield 1 did away with that, and it removed a huge focus from the minimap, and it put reliance back on the 3D HUD and the audio systems. Battlefield 5 has largely done away with 3D spotting, pushing more and more emphasis onto the audio systems, which, as we know in some areas, is not in a great place at the moment. But credit to DICE for rolling out this fix/update for the minimap. The issue was identified a little over a week ago, and they've turned around a fix really quickly, which is great to see. As for the rest of this patch, DICE has released a small list of fixes that they've implemented. It is only a small patch at the end of the day. They fixed an issue where high-level recon players lost access to the throwing knife. This was actually remedied in a hotfix late last week, re-unlocking the throwing knife for all players who'd gone past the required rank. DICE has adjusted the initial respawn count on specific maps in the domination mode. They fixed a crash that could occur when being in the practice range as a squad, another crash that could occur when viewing the Tides of War menu, another crash that could occur when you play the Nordlease War story, and they've corrected the Tides of War countdown notice to show the correct number of days. That was showing the wrong number. Now, returning to audio for a moment, this is another area that DICE is currently investigating and are working on. Lots of feedback has been coming in from players that the footsteps audio of enemy players is simply not loud enough, and it gets lost in the mix of all the other sounds that happen in Battlefield 5. And just as I mentioned, with a lack of 3D spotting in this game, audio becomes increasingly more important during multiplayer matches. You need to know if an enemy is close by, if they're above you, if they're below you, or if they're just behind you about to melee kill you. Right now, the mix just doesn't quite feel right. Friendly player footsteps appear to be louder than enemy player footsteps, which I think is a problem that Battlefield 1 had not long after its launch. And in that game, DICE did roll out a patch that updated the sounds and increased the volume of enemy footsteps, and it may even have tweaked the systems to allow more directional sound to come through as well. I think Battlefield 5 simply needs a similar fix to what Battlefield 1 had, and I expect that will arrive in one of the next major updates to the game. I'm assuming here we will get another big update to the game in January as part of the next chapter of Tides of War, so after the holidays, we'll see if anything happens. Another fix that is on its way is one that addresses players sitting at rank 50 for their soldiers who are not earning company coin anymore. Now, unfortunately, last week it was communicated that with the Overture patch on December 5th, DICE would be fixing this issue, and they'd also be retroactively rewarding players who'd missed company coins for the games they'd spent sitting at rank 50, not earning anything. That was in fact incorrect, and I'm sure as you've noticed you're probably still not earning as much company coin at the moment. That sucks because you can't buy any of the cosmetics from the armory, and you may not have enough company coin to start specialising other weapons that you're now ranking up. Dan Mitri, community manager, he took to Reddit and social media last night to update the community on this, and essentially confirmed the team is still working to fix things up for a future patch. He did list off all the concerns, however. DICE is fully aware of what needs fixing, and hopefully soon we'll get another update on this one. Company coin is one of those systems that's integral to the progression system in Battlefield 5, so I can understand why so many players are concerned that the issue is yet to be fixed. Another sore point at the moment is bipod performance. With the new VGO MMG being introduced into the game recently as part of the first week of the Tides of War, I've spent a lot of time using the bipod on that gun, and it really does highlight the issues that the system currently has. Sometimes you're prone on what you think is a perfectly good bit of ground to deploy the bipod on, and you won't be able to aim down sight properly because the game doesn't agree with you, and it thinks that that bit of ground is not good to deploy on. Sometimes certain areas, when pivoting on the bipod, will cause it to retract and then redeploy, leaving you either frustrated and annoyed that you couldn't shoot somebody who's run past, or dead, because the enemy you were shooting at turned round and took advantage of your struggle for accuracy. This also happens when deploying the bipod on cover as well, and it's not always clear what you can and cannot deploy your bipod on. For example, you can deploy your bipod on the edge of the bridge on the Twisted Steel map and use the metal wall, but you cannot do that on certain sections of the Metro Bridge on Rotterdam. You don't seem to be able to deploy your bipod on railings either, although they look like perfectly good locations for you to deploy on. The whole system is just a bit wonky at the moment, but DICE dev Drunksy has stated that this is a system they are working to improve. Here's a quote from him. "We are looking at the bipod as well as the prone experience that directly impacts the use of the bipod. In the next major update, we will bring some improvements that reduce bipod issues caused by prone, and some more will be making their way in the future as well, as changes to the bipod itself. No clear ETA on that just yet, but we need to improve that experience." This is obviously good information to have. The support class, for me at least, is my most used class in Battlefield 5, and whilst there's no ETA on a fix for this at the moment, as Drunksy says, it will be part of the next major update, or at least some changes will be part of the next major update that we get to the game, I assume, after the holidays. The Tides of War progression tree, that's been causing a lot of frustration for players as well, with challenges not tracking properly, others completing the assignments and then not getting the VGO as a reward, even though the game shows on that screen that it's unlocked, and even trying to complete the assignments where you need to use those dreaded ammo and healing crates, which at the moment don't appear to be working as intended. They kind of slide through the ground, or they simply don't deploy on surfaces that are just slightly out of the ordinary. DICE is working to make sure challenges are tracking properly, but if you do miss out on unlocking the VGO this week, there will be an opportunity to do so in the future using company coins. We best hope that DICE gets the company coin issue fixed as well then. Personally, I'm having a blast with Battlefield 5 at the moment. Gameplay is really solid, and switching between game modes is showing me the best map and mode combinations. The gunplay is slick and satisfying, and in general the game is just really good fun to play, especially if you can squad up with a couple of your friends. Being a squad in Battlefield 5 is really effective. But it's hard to ignore some of these finicky, annoying bugs that are present throughout the game, and it is marring the experience to an extent. Now, I don't ever expect a game to be bug-free, and Battlefield 5 is an extremely large game anyway, so I wasn't by any means expecting the smoothest video game launch that we've ever had, but I did expect more polish than this. And it's clear that even though the game was delayed a month, there wasn't sufficient time to get everything done. Delaying the game further into 2019 clearly wasn't an option for EA and DICE with Battlefield 5. I get that doing something like that would massively affect their financial reporting and their financial results, so it was a risk that they weren't willing to take, but it leaves players in the lurch a little bit. It is good to see that DICE is committing to rooting out these bugs, fixing them, and then delivering on their promise of a live service for the game. Last week we had a false start with the patch kicking things off being delayed, but we're up and running now, and it's clear to see that DICE is working towards delivering what they said they'd deliver. We've had 1 hotfix and 2 patches within the first month of Battlefield 5. I can't remember any previous Battlefield game having that kind of detail and attention put towards it so soon after launch. But there you are, let me know what you think of these upcoming changes down below in the comments, and let me know once you've played the game later on today about that minimap spotting fix. I'm interested to hear your thoughts and opinions and experiences after you play the game, since DICE has now fixed that problem. I've played a couple of matches this morning, haven't noticed a huge amount of difference so far, but I was playing on some of the larger maps, and overall this issue was affecting some of the smaller maps where enemies obviously are much closer to you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel with notifications switched on, that way you won't miss any of my future Battlefield 5 videos, and a big thanks for watching today. But until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.